Well, doing another Vortex bowl, and I went to my favorite hardwood store yesterday. I got some cherry, some poplar, and some burnt oak, and I cut them into strips, 9 1/4 long, 3 1/4 wide. I'm making a huge Vortex bowl. The last one I did maxed out at 11. This one, I've designed it to, well, it'll make small ones, but I'm making an 18-inch diameter Vortex bowl. At least I'm going to try. And it'll go much bigger than that. So I know it'll cut the segments. The difficult part is gluing them together. So I know there'll be interest in the sled. I'll talk about that once we get going. I'll try to give you enough information to make one, but it might take another special video to do it. I don't want to make that video yet until I know I can glue these together. But I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think I could. So let's get over there and see if I can do it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and show you the sled before I get over to the bandsaw. It's a little dark. It's just like the other one where I have a saw cut here and I have a rail on there and I put a stop here. I make a cut and then I lay out where I want the pivoting holes. I did put them up here and it would have worked, but I would have wasted a lot of stock using them there. So I redesigned it so that it's tilted for the stock, and then I put those holes in there. We'll talk about those later. I just want you to see how this works. Not really much different than my other one. Here's the working part. There's a pin that drops in up here where everything rotates. Right there. The very first cut, I elevate the piece. That's just a scrap. And I'll put the first segment on top of here, clamp it down, I'll make that cut, then I'll take it apart, I'll put this against the stop, and we no longer need that spacer. And I'll show you that over at the bandsaw. I'll make this cut, I'll move it over there, put a piece of cherry on it, and we'll make our cuts. I'll show you some of that, and hopefully I'll have enough pieces that will go together, we'll get them glued. Alright, so here's how I cut the very first one. Take that out. Blow this out. Bring it back. Put this in here. Get a wedge on each end. Put the cherry on top. Clamp it down. Run it through. And just keep doing that until we have 24 pieces. So I'll show you a few more cuts and then we'll get over and stack them together and see how they look. Got all the pieces cut. There's 24. It measures 18.5 or so across there. So we definitely have a piece big enough to make an 18-inch diameter. I put this little rope clamp around it, pulled it together. I just wanted you to see what it looked like in this form, because I'm not going to glue it together all in one piece. Maybe in sections anywhere between 3 and 6, I'm not sure. Some of them are going to take some special attention because the wood kind of sprung when I cut it on a few of the pieces. So I'm going to work on what we're going to do here, and I'll be right back and we'll start gluing it together. Okay, I think I have a plan, and I'm going to do these in threes at least to start. This is 4, 5, 6. I have them marked the way I cut them. I decided to start with these because they actually fit really good, and I want to get off to a good start. So I'm not going to show you all the gluing of the pieces, and I'm not going to show them all at normal speed because this would take forever, but I think you get the idea of what's going on here. And I won't do it all in one day. It's probably going to take me 3 or 4 days to do it. My plan right now is to glue them in groups of threes, glue those together. After that, I don't have a plan yet. It's a pretty decent joint right now. I've also hot glued some cleats onto here so I have a place to clamp and apply pressure. Otherwise the clamps will just slide off. So sometimes I wonder why I do things like this when I put a lot of extra work into it. I guess I'm just kind of stubborn. I know I've heard that quite a few times around here. Okay, I think you can see that. There we go. I think that's a good joint. Not too bad anyways. Alright, I'll do the same process to a couple more and we'll see if we can get it all glued together. So I think you can see I've got about 3 groups glued together right now, and I'll show you how that happens here in a minute. You can see I've hot glued a piece of wood on one side. I hooked the clamp on it, and then I'm able to clamp from the outside of the other group, and that doesn't damage the wood there. And it seems to be working okay. So I've kind of been checking how many pieces I can do at one time. On this one right here I just used one, and its main reason is because of what I put in there next. I've got a group of 3 now, and that worked out pretty well. It was just easier to do 1 and then the 3. So the main reason for this little wedge is, one is to keep from damaging the wood. The other is to keep from having that clamp trying to slide off the curved surface. Okay, last 2 pieces going in. Let's hope they fit. If you've made it this far, it kind of tells me you like this type of work. So if you did, go ahead and take the time and click that like button. And if you're not subscribed and you like this, go ahead and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. What really lets me know if I should put this much work into anything is if a lot of people see it. So if you could go ahead and share this around, that would be fantastic. Okay, let's see what we can make out of this. Well, as it worked out, I only let it sit for 2 days. I just couldn't stand it. Using my Stanley 60.5 block plane, it was the favorite one I had at work. And I've had it for over 50 years, and I bought it when it was used at that, so it's very old. I'm using my calipers right now to verify that I'm in the center of that blank, and I did cut the corners off on the bandsaw, but once I get it over to the lathe, I'll slowly adjust it so I can turn the maximum diameter that the lathe will do. So I'll get this taken care of, hot glued on, and then I'll meet you at the lathe. I have it flipped around. It's mounted to the piece that I hot glued on. After I flipped it around, I went ahead and flattened this out. It's not real exciting. It was kind of slow going. And I've glued this piece on with wood glue. I've cut a tenon on here because I want to be able to hang on to this really good when I turn the actual shape. And I want to use the larger jaws for that. So it's actually about almost 18 1/16, and it just barely clears the lathe. And just to show you the reference between how I started this whole process, that is the first one that I made, and that's, I think, 7 3/4 in diameter. Just a little bit difference in size. I sort of think I have an idea what I'm going to do here. When I get it flipped around and cleaned up, I'll let you know if we can do that or not. So I'll be back shortly after it's flipped around. Well, I've got it flipped around, and this is the piece that I had hot glued on there, and that was so I could hold it while I did the underside. This should cut a little better than what the underside did because the underside's flat. It's a little more balanced. We'll be doing about 700 RPM with a 1/2 inch bowl gouge. Well, that looks pretty good. So for what we decided that we'd use this for, I'm gluing a ring of segments around there, and I'll tell you about that later. The problem is the disc already touches the bed of the lathe, or just about touches it. So I'm gluing these on in groups of 6. I'll have to take it off of the lathe and go over to my 14-inch disc sander and then sand it flush to the other piece, put it back on, then I can turn it. I need to flatten this, put a little shape on there. That's pretty much all I'm going to do to this piece, and I'll explain what it's going to be, why I did it that way and made it simple, and what might be in store in the future. Use a 1/2 inch bowl gouge. I'm not sure what the RPM is going to be yet. Let's go with 500. Now 500 on something this small here, not much. Out there, it's a lot of surface going by. Alright, I think it's time to sand. I spent quite a bit of time sanding this up, and it's pretty smooth. It wasn't real exciting to show. I'm going to use up the rest of this can of General Finishes Wood Bowl Finish. I've had it for a long time, and I don't want to have it go bad on me. Let's see what that looks like. Sure changes it. I think all the wood I have here is going to really soak it up. So I'm putting it on pretty heavy, and I'll wipe it down when I need to. Then I'll have to flip it over and kind of do the same thing. So this is Siberian. I don't know if I mentioned what that is. That Siberian is beautiful wood. I thought I should show you my actual finishing process with this. What I did on the first coat was I poured it in here because this burnt oak is very porous. I wanted to get it in there, let it soak in as much as it would. Then I wiped it all down. The rest of the coats I went like this on the lathe, and then I could turn it like this, get rid of any streaks, and I don't put it on very thick. So that is the actual finishing process. This goes on quite nicely. Okay, that's the last coat. I will be back after that's dry and show you what I've actually made here. Well, here it is. It's a full 18-inch diameter. That is the maximum that I can do over the bed of my lathe. It's made from burnt oak, cherry, poplar, and that top rim is made from Siberian. I used 7 coats of the General Finishes wood bowl finish, all wiped on with a soft cloth, and I put it on real thin because I don't want to leave any streaks. So it's pretty easy to put on, and I'm pretty happy with the finish. So what's it going to be? Well, I thought it'd make a nice platter. My wife thinks it should be a Lazy Susan, so now it's both. I got the mechanism, I made a Lazy Susan out of it. I did take some material out on the end here on the underside, make it easier to pick up. So the cutting fixture worked fine. I did have a little bit of problem with the pieces springing out of shape. That led to a very complex glue up method, which worked, but it was a lot of work. I did have one joint that didn't close up. I don't think you can actually see it. But what I'm really disappointed with is I made a big boo-boo in here, and you may not be able to see it. I can. Look it over. If you can see what I consider a big boo-boo, let me know. And no, it's not a bad glue joint. It's worse than that in my mind. Anyways, it doesn't look too bad. So if there's any interest in seeing this fixture built, I can do that. And I can also show a much easier way to glue it up, even though I didn't think about that until I was done. But doesn't matter. I've thought about it and I want to do it. But do me a favor. Click that share button so many others will see this. If there's enough interest, I'll make that special video. I do have to say that this was a lot of work. I spent a lot of hours making this, but I still had a lot of fun and I enjoyed doing it. And I sure hope you enjoyed the video. Well, I sure do hope you did like this, and if you did, click that like button. I think all in all it turned out pretty nice. Kind of thinking maybe the next one could be a bowl from a board. Let me know what you think. If you like this, you're not subscribed, it'd be great if you could do that. And a special thanks to all my current subscribers. So, till the next time, see you later.